6, 2009 meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order, and would you all join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, starting off this morning, I'd like to read the results of a closed session that we held last meeting on May 19th. Closed session was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation with William Claudino, former supervisor, and Calaveras Superior Court case CB 35667. Resulting in nothing to report. Okay, at this time I'd like to turn our attention to the consent agenda. These items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. However, I've been informed that a few things need to be pulled off. These items, the ones that are not being pulled off, will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. But any board member or any member of the public can pull something off. So at this time, I'd like to ask if anyone would like to pull something from the consent agenda. Yes?
Number 4.
Okay, pulling number 4. Number 8. Right,
I'd like to pull number 7, Mr. Chair.
I just have a question. We don't have anything on item 3.
Oh, yes, I should have clarified that. Item 3, it turns out, was more or less double booked. It was an item that we took care of at a previous meeting. It was booked on both sessions, both the previous meeting and this meeting, just as a contingency plan in case it didn't get acted upon. So item 3, that's correct. Item 3 will not be, it won't be necessary to discuss item number 3 because we've already acted on that. Okay, so we have a request well, we won't be discussing item 3, and we're pulling 4, 7, and 8.
I just have a question. I see some wildlife people in the back. Did you want item 6 pulled? No? Okay, thank you.
All right, hearing no further requests for removal, Chair entertains a motion on the balance.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded on the balance of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes on a 5-0. All right. As we discussed, item 3 has been dispensed with. Item 4, could we have a report on item 4?
Sorry, you hardly hear me.
Okay, let me read this, please. Item 4, this is concerning a minute order regarding the approval and execution of a 1-year, no, excuse me, I think that this is a typo on this. It's a 5-year contract as I read through the contract. A 5-year contract or a lease agreement between the county and the Murphys Creek Theater, also known as MCT, the Murphys Creek Theater Group for the Black Bart Theater in Murphys, and this is brought to us by the administration. So, yes, what is your name, please?
My name is Donna Brolio. I live in Maritas District. I prefer to stay in the background and have spoken to all of you regarding different topics about which I care most. However, I was shocked to see your consent agenda today has an item of which I and many others have a great passion. I am respectfully requesting that you remove this item and reschedule it at a later date. The problems at the Black Bart Playhouse go back many years, and there has not been a lease for even more years. I believe the process to pick a new lessee has been flawed from the beginning. 3 groups in the area wrote to the county stating their willingness to take over management of the playhouse long ago. No requests for proposals were put out by the county, and absolutely no attempt was made to bring any of the groups together to solve their differences. The fact that your agenda states that you want to give the Murphy's Creek Theater a one-year lease, and that the packet you received clearly states they get a 5-year lease at $1 a year is troublesome. And I have been fielding phone calls and emails all weekend with people asking me why it is not correct on the agenda. The public trusts you that the agenda information will be accurate, and most do not bother to download the packets. The lease itself appears to have been written by an MCT board member and is also extremely flawed in our opinion. You created a wonderful Parks and Recreation Commission who have been shown to be very successful in the recent Mountain Ranch property donation, negotiating competing groups to ultimately share the property. Why don't you give them the opportunity to work out this very controversial situation? How could anything this controversial have been put on the consent agenda anyway? I have believed you were trying to bring all of the many little kingdoms around the county together instead of encouraging even more controversy. After calling many counties around the state regarding giving county-owned, taxpayer-owned properties to professional theater organizations, everyone I spoke to said that, for example, Sierra Repertory Theater in Sonora, who I love, are not given property or money belonging to the county and communities. The building is supposed to be used for community theater and not for paid professionals. Professionals not necessarily meaning great, but that they are paid. I have been told that MCT wants to be an actors union only theater as a goal, and their website has professional written all over it. Please don't get me wrong, I love professional theater and go to the SRT musicals whenever I get a chance. However, as you all know, my real passion is children and their exposure to musical theater. Children who experience the arts, and especially theater arts, will always care and support the arts as adults. I was told last year that meetings would be held and the problems worked out. What happened? Why the secrecy? The Calaveras Children's Repertory Theater has never demanded to totally control a county property, although we are clearly the largest theater group. We are performing there the weekend of June 12th to 14th. If you do not agree to postpone this item, I request to be allowed to speak again on the grievances we have with MCC's contract and the condition of the Playhouse, which they have been occupying for months now. Please allow our own Parks and Recreation Commission to take an active role, as they should, in finding common ground and mutual respect between the theater groups wishing to use the Playhouse for the benefit of the community. MCT's total control will not be beneficial to anyone but MCT. Thank you.
Ms. Brolio, there may be some questions here. Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Brolio? Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Good morning.
Hi, guys. My name is Chrissy Kroeb, and I'm here in a different capacity than I normally am. I'm an actress, a former board member with the Black Bart Players, and I'm one of the people that crossed over to start working with Murphy's Creek. I currently serve on their marketing team, and I've been involved with the 2 productions that we've done at the Black Bart Playhouse so far this year. Donna's right, there were a lot of problems with the Black Bart Players. It was poorly managed, the Playhouse was falling apart, and nobody got along, and to be honest, the plays weren't that good. But since Murphy's Creek has come in with the Murphy's Creek Board and Graham Green, our artistic director, things have been really changing for the better around there. We've done 2 really awesome productions. We have people in there working every day on making the theater better. You should see our lobby, it's gorgeous. We have people coming in from Sacramento, the Bay Area, all over Calaveras to help us catalog our costumes. We had meetings probably, I don't know, a few months before this happened. They were open to the public. We had people on Murphy's Creek, people from Black Bart come. We talked about the merger. Everyone was really for it, and when we did decide to do it, it was a unanimous decision. I think this is a good thing, and with a lease, we'll be able to do so much more. We'll be able to really become a bigger part of the community, and the Calaveras Children's Repertory Theater is currently doing a production at the Black Bart Playhouse, so I don't know, we are very kid-friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian.
My name is Dixon Collins, and I'm a member of the Murphy's Creek Board of Directors. And I'd like to read the mission statement of Murphy's Creek. It's dedicated to fostering the development and appreciation of performing arts in the Mother-Lode community by providing professional-level public performances, stage readings, and theatrical training, including support of drama and school programs. We have as goals and purpose in our bylaws to promote and produce public performances of dramatic literature of all types, including but not limited to classical theater, contemporary drama, comedy, and musical theater, to offer stage readings of new plays for public review and discussion, to offer classes in performance, design, and production of dramatic literature, to promote production and cultural exchange of dramatic literature pertaining to the history of the California foothills and the gold rush era, to promote professional performing arts in the region, and to elevate the level of theatrical training available to local students and adults. A couple of points that I wanted to make was that in the lease was not prepared by us. It was submitted by the county council and to us, and then we met with them, with the attorney for Murphy's Creek Theater, Mr. Blair White, who was acting in a pro bono fashion based on community help. And the few changes that we made were just minor, but all of it's a standard county lease as far as I know. MCT pays the same rate as anyone else who would be using the theater. I wanted to make that clear. We're trying to develop a liability policy. The idea was brought to us a couple days ago. That would be an overall liability policy that would meet the standards for the county, where everybody would be just charged the same rate and be included. So, because the intention is to keep the community theater completely full all the time with any event, any group that wants to use it. In the lease, it states that we will coordinate our scheduling activities with the Children's Repertory Theater of Mrs. Perlio, the Downtown Murphys Business Association, and the Murphys Community Club. That's included in the lease. MCT has identified 45 potential grant programs that would include capital improvements of the building, landscape, and operating costs, and we would be jointly applying for these grants with the county. Grant programs would be submitted to the county, and they rely on joint approval, so it's not something that we do by ourselves. The MCT board only governs, and our president is Graham Green, and he operates the production facility with a paid staff, and we just govern, so we're not involved in any of the productions in that way. Rental agreements, it stated in the lease, would be on a first-come, first-served basis, and anyone in the community is welcome to use the facility. The rental schedule is operated by the MCT Building Committee and is overseen by Sandra Date and submitted monthly to the county, and then we would submit a audited statement of all the funds incoming and outgoing, and that's stated in the lease already also to be approved by the county. And the rates for each year would be changed at the end of the year based on the costs that we experience, so that there's no profit anywhere. We're a nonprofit, it's not designed to make money, so whatever the costs are, then the new rates that apply to everyone would be submitted to the county, approved. Now those would be the rates for the next year. There is a little confusion in the sense that we already were requested by the Repertory Theater to have a lease for their use. We submitted a sublease agreement to them. They signed it, gave us a check. We have the insurance is in place, and so they're already scheduled on the schedule. I want to read the board members of Murphy's Creek Theater so everyone is aware of it. Graham Green, Chuck Hovey, myself, Don Bose, Gloria Zweers, Mr. Jim Dalton, Julia Snowden, Nancy Kortz, Peggy Lucas, Rick Visness, Rudy Ortega, and Sandy Date. Does the board have any questions for me relative to our intentions, or what we're trying to do here? Thank you.
Any questions? No? Anyone else wishing to speak on this topic? Okay, no comments of any kind.
I have a few comments I'd like to make on the lease, if I may.
Certainly.
They're basically, I have several amendments that I would propose to the lease, but first let me just say in general that it's my understanding that the Murphy's Creek Theater Group did reach out to the other groups and has had discussions with the other groups, and this is not sort of a unilateral effort on their part. There is a significant amount of county involvement in this lease. The county has to agree to the rates that are set. Murphy's Creek Theater is going to submit a capital budget and hopefully some basic means to meet the objectives of that capital budget. There is an audit provision which I'll address here in a minute. So this is not in any way comparable to the lease that we had with the Black Bart players. It's trying to have, making sure that the community involvement remains, and that Murphy's Creek Theater Group, which they have committed to and in which their mission statement alludes to, is basically operating it in the public interest for theatrical performances in the county. So with that, I would have, and I spoke to Dixon just before the meeting. I left a message on his machine last night, and I think he's in concurrence that these are more clarifications perhaps than they are material differences in the lease, with the exception of the first one, which is under item 2, term. I would like to recommend that the term be for 1 year and the renewal option period be for 4 years, which would then take it to May 31st, 2014. And then it can be extended beyond that date by mutual consent of the parties. So I would like to make that recommendation. If you look under item 4 and then turn the page to page 2, the paragraph on top, it says MCTC, being the Murphy's Theater Group, may charge a fee for special events and charge a fee to the individual or organization booking the property to offset Murphy's Creek's expenses for maintenance of the property, etc. I would also like, counsel, a sentence in there which is more just clarification that the Murphy's Creek Theater Group will also pay a like fee as an individual organization for a like event, so that it's clear that they're paying on the same basis as everybody else for a like event. Okay, if you go to item 9 on page 3 under fees, I would like it basically to say the same thing there, that they will in fact pay the same fees as those that are charged others for like events. It also just, again, requires the county approval before the implementation of fees, and I'm very much in favor of that, and that will remain as stated. On page 6, wait a minute, I lost where I am. Not page 6, I don't think. 5. Where's the one about the audit? What's on that? What did I do? I had it.
Page 5, first paragraph.
Page 5, first paragraph?
Third paragraph.
Third paragraph.
All financial records are subject to review.
Okay, where are you? What number?
Section 17, third paragraph.
Okay, it says all financial records are subject to review and audit by the county as required to determine the maintenance of said property and establishment of annual fee revisions. I think maybe we should expand a little bit just the audit requirement, and it seems to me that it should be a two-phased audit. One would be an accounting for all the income that is received as a consequence of renting the building, and then how that money is spent. And the second would be on the capital side, that we would do an annual audit of how much is in the capital account and what the proposed capital budget is for the coming year. I think that's basically sort of implied throughout the document, but I think it would be nice to have a real clear statement under the audit requirements so there's no misunderstanding.
Okay.
And those are the requirements or the amendments that I would like to propose. I don't know if the board supports those. Would you need time to redo the document, or could we just approve it as amended? Or do you want to bring it back and want me to have it brought back in a week if there's support for it?
I think probably the auditing thing will take some reworking.
Would you feel more comfortable to just bring it back in a week?
Yeah.
Okay, well, those would be my recommendations, and then it would be then I'd be willing to make a motion for a 1-week continuance.
Is a week long enough?
Assuming there's board support for that, obviously.
Well, I'm going to be gone starting tomorrow, no, why don't we do it in a week? I'll get this done this afternoon and put it on for next week. David Sirius will be here with you, but I'll make sure he covers it.
Are you ready for a motion, or is there board?
Okay, I'd like to, I'll get to you in a second, Dixon, but why is there a reference specifically to the fact that the lease is for the building only, and it says the parking lot is not a part of the lease agreement? That's
because that's the parking lot is a community parking lot. It was built with environmental mitigation funds for building downtown,
okay.
For in lieu parking, number one, and number two, it was also funded by Caltrans Park and Ride funds, so it cannot be used exclusively for a production at the Black Bart Players Theater. It has to be open to the general public, and the county basically has an obligation to maintain that parking lot, and I think that's the reason that the parking lot is not included in the lease.
Okay, well, it sort of jumped off the page at me that it could be a potential train wreck for a production, not...
It's never been a problem. Because
it's never been a problem, and one of the things we put in the lease was that there will be a coordination with the community club and the merchant. So, you know, if it's Irish days, that's probably not a good idea to schedule a production on Irish days when the parking lot's totally full.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, most of these folks live in the area, and they know, you know, when we're going to close Main Street and have events, et cetera. It's never been a problem to date where we've run out of parking in the parking lot because of a production at the Black Bart Player Theater and other activities in the community.
Well, it sounds like it's been an issue that's been dealt with for quite some time. So, and in Supervisor Tryon, in your mind, the criticisms that were expressed by Mrs. Brolio about the Children's Theater not being given an opportunity to participate in this lease negotiations and stuff like that. Those
Well, I think
concerns
they
are...
were, I think the lease is inclusive of everybody. Somebody has to manage the facility. It's not going to be the Park and Rec District because they have no money. I mean, it has to be somebody that has the ability to financially bear the burden of managing the facility. I think the Murphy's Creek Theater Group is probably the strongest group we have in the community at this point for doing that. And I don't think the Children's Theater Group or any other group is going to be excluded. And we have a fairly short lease on the term, et cetera, to make sure that if there are problems, we try to get them addressed before the lease would be extended.
Okay.
So the other groups, whether it's a children's group, Murphy's Community Club, if they would like to submit a proposal to run the theater at the end of the year, they'll have that opportunity at the renewal.
I guess if somebody wanted to come forward, but quite frankly, it seems to me that in good faith, the board would have to say that it's not being managed up to the standards we would like to see before you would just,
Okay, we'll get to you in just a
somebody
second.
out.
Okay, I just want to say at this particular point that I have personally known Graham Greene and his group for 15 years or more, and I have always seen them to be committed to education of children. I mean, there's some of the kids that
I would
they
be
were,
very surprised if there were a problem that would develop. I think the Murphy's Creek Theater Group is a very community responsive group. So.
Okay, I promise I'll get to you. Just 1 second. Chrissy, you may have some specific knowledge of this, but the Murphy's Creek Theater has always had a very aggressive program at Steveno. Will that continue alongside this?
Yep, we're
What? Please come to the mic.
MCT is still going to do the Theater Under the Stars at the Steveno Amphitheater. We're also still doing the Mirror Project. This year we're doing Merchant of Venice, so there will be an adult show, and then Graham will do the program with the kids to do their full-length Shakespeare production at the end of the program. At the same time, we'll be doing a production at the Black Bart Playhouse, so they'll overlap, I think, by maybe a week. But yeah, we'll be in both places doing more shows, which was one of the big things. One of the big reasons we wanted to do the merger was there's no reason that the theater should be dark. If it's there, it doesn't necessarily have to be us, but it's a great building, it's a great venue, so we just thought it should always be in use. So.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy. Dixon, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to comment that one of the requirements often of these grant programs that we have is that we have a continuation of the specifically the county ownership and the relationship, so that they know that they're giving capital funds to a program with longevity. And so if there's any possibility we could have the 1 year with the automatic 5-year and then another 5-year extension, because you have a clause, the last clause, where the county can cancel for any reason with 90 days notice, and that seems to me to be a very solid protection to be able to stop it, stop the lease if you wanted to. But the perceived aspect by many of these major grant programs is that there should be some longevity, so that if they're going to give $500,000 for a revision of the theater, that we have the county and the managing company together on a long-term lease, because it protects them for their money. It's just something I'd like to have considered.
That's a point that will need to be clarified by the board. Dixon's correct. When we discussed the term of the lease, he expressed the same goal. But the lease in reality is a 90-day lease. Its term can be terminated without cause on 90 days' notice. So if the idea is to have it automatically roll over into another 4-year term or a new 4-year term, I'll need to.
Well, I guess the idea of having a one-year term is to get, because there is some degree of controversy, at least we have a one-year operating history, and hopefully everybody will be, we can, if there's some weak areas, we can strengthen the weak areas. I know when we did like the Prop 40 application, land tenure was an extremely important aspect of getting those grants. And it almost came down to a government entity better own the property, or you're just not going to get the grant. I don't care who the operating
That's correct.
Entity is. And so to me, it's probably the biggest deal in the grants is the fact that the county owns the property, and it
Correct.
isn't going anywhere. I guess my own feeling would be is to write it up as I recommended, and if you guys apply for a grant, and one of the conditions of the grant is that we need to go back and deal with the lease or the tenure,
Okay.
that just deal with it at that time to meet the requirements of the grant.
If this furthers the continuation of the thing, then I very much agree with that. The other thing I want to mention too is that Graham is in discussions right now with a group out of Sacramento, I think at University of Davis, to implement a program for autism. There's some early indications that theater relationship with autistic children is extremely effective, and so that's a program that we have underway right now to comment to Russ's comments about some of the things that Graham does with kids.
Supervisor Walensky.
Yeah, I had a question and a comment. I'm interested in making sure that whatever we do is helps resolve whatever residual issues and arguments may be out there. So one question I had has to do with your description of the building committee and its operations. It is a committee of your organization. Is there a possibility of making sure that that committee holds its meetings in the open, maybe includes people from other groups, so that we can have a collaborative in reviewing both use and improvements and costs thereto?
Yeah, we have no problem with that at all. It's just Rudy Ortega is on the building committee, and Sandy Day and myself. We were primarily because we were the people responsible for submitting the applications for the grant program. That's the only reason I happen to be involved in it. And what Sandy does is she keeps on a this is the current schedule for month by month of all the various groups that are already signed up, or either have leases or are pending. We've held all the checks in advance. It'll be a separate account open that it works everything with the building, and we'd be happy to work with anybody that wants to come and talk to us about that or be part of a meeting. It's very open, very transparent. We don't have any issues with that at all, and anyone is invited. I've met with Mrs. Brolio, I think once in my office. She came over early on, and we've had numerous emails, including one just 2 days ago where she was submitting the final papers for confirmation for the insurance for her. So we would like very much to work with everyone in the community and not have, and to eliminate any controversy or any animosities.
And so that's my question, and my comment is that whenever this comes back to us, be in 1 week or 1 year or 5 years, my hope is that we can not have the level of stir just before a meeting like this with a lot of new information coming in and having it hard to discern exactly what's going on. I trust these groups to work it out in their community, and I would hope for a peaceful resolution of whatever lurks behind this.
Yeah, this was brand new to us. This controversy cropped up about a week ago, and we were unaware of it until then. We have not had anything directed to us directly. We had no phone calls, no requests for meetings. So it's new to us, but we will definitely be open to resolving it in the best way possible.
This might be a great week for that process to unfold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a couple of comments back here. This young lady next to Mrs. Brolio. Good morning.
My name is Lucia Cornejo, and I live in San Andres. And I have two children that being part of CCRT for over 3 years. And it's a wonderful organization that doesn't charge any money to any parent and doesn't they welcome every and any child in the community to perform. Adults are not involved. They're not the stars. We are volunteers, and we devoted to help the children develop the special skills that later in life will, they can use it in different ways in society. So I got involved because I like the way they think and the way they treated the children and how they become and flourish. My children have improved so much in a lot of ways that I'm very grateful for it. And I was involved in theater more and more, and a few months ago, we went to a Black Bart Playhouse because they were offering a class for the kids to learn how to sing and how to do theater. So my children and I went because they gave us a date to sign up, and I was ready to write a check for they wanted about $600 or $550 for both of them. So I talked to the director, I think it was Graham, and I asked him if he could give me a discount because there was going to be 2 kids, and I thought it was a little bit steep. And he definitely said yes, so it came down to $450. And I said, well, it'll be worth it because it's something that my kids I've seen them grow, so I think an extra class will help them. And I was very excited about it, so we waited. We were there, and there was nobody there. And then a lady was sitting in the corner, and I asked her about if anybody was going to be there. And she said, well, I'm waiting. And so I called, nobody answered. The phone for a little while, I think a couple of days, it was disconnected at the theater. And she was never aware that the class was canceled. We were waiting for over an hour. There in a cold day, I don't know if it was March or April, they had to place these classes, and nobody called me and said they were canceled. And nobody was working at the office. The doors were locked. And then she went to her, I think her name is Melody. She went to her studio in Murphy's and made a phone call to him. And then I got a phone call from him direct to my cell phone. And he apologized and said that apparently it must have been a mistake of information, and he was sorry that happened. So that opened a can of worms because I was wondering that such a beautiful theater, we were looking forward for that. We saved the money for that, and it was like no big deal. They canceled everything, and there was no reason for it. So I started asking questions on what was happening, and I found out that the Playhouse, the Black Bart Playhouse, is a community theater building. And then we were trying to find out that how can we extend our theater over on every side of the county. And that's a great place to be, but they're charging us money for it. We are a nonprofit organization. We're raising money. Every penny goes towards paying the buildings where we're going to perform, costumes, but the families don't pay a penny for it. So I would like to see that this building is open for everybody, so the nonprofit organizations can actually be part of maintaining and keeping up with the theater so we can continue using it. And also I would like to see there is a fund set aside to restore the building. And that's, I think, is very important that we don't think about ourselves, that we think about the future of our children. It's very important that we all start thinking about the part of theater. It's very important in our children's future. And I think that sometimes we forget that if it wasn't for the children, we wouldn't be here. None of us. Because we need to think about that before we make a decision. And a harsh decision to give the management to one group only, it will be probably too risky. That I think we need to meet and we need to have minutes about how much money is going where, and who's doing what, and the community needs to be aware of it, of what we're doing with our buildings and how we're making it better for us. I don't think it's enough to say that's the way we always do it. I think it's important that we move ahead and we're responsible for our actions and work together for the best of our children in this county. Thank you for listening.
Did you have something else, Mrs. Broglio? By the way, the lady that just spoke,
sorry.
Her name was Lucia, is that?
Yes, Arola, yeah.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to respond to the comment that maybe Tom wasn't aware that he did set up a meeting between myself and Dixon Collins at Dixon's house, and I don't want to be as honest as I should be about the way he delineated Children's Theater and myself, the way that he said I wasn't allowed to speak until I was sure that he was through speaking, and there was never another meeting suggested, even though I asked for it. Never.
Okay, we've heard Supervisor Tryon's suggestion that we could make those modifications and come back in a week. You want to clarify that that's in the form of a motion, Supervisor?
Yes, I'll move for a one-week continuance.
Could I just get the term, the language about the term, the paragraph 2, the only change would be that the term shall then May 31st, 2010.
No, okay, and then there would be a 4-year extension to 2014.
Okay, that's the only change in that paragraph. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then it can be continued thereafter by mutual consent.
Right.
Which is obvious.
Yes.
You can always continue something by mutual consent, but it might just say that. Okay, I move for a one-week continuance, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that continuance.
Okay, moved and seconded for the continuance. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries on a 5-0. Okay, now moving on to item number 7. This is a resolution regarding approval and execution of an agreement between the county and Ebbets Pass Veterans Memorial District permitting the erection of a monument on county property. Is someone here to discuss this item?
Well, I pulled it, so maybe I'll bring up the reason I pulled it. And I pulled it because, Jim, I think all of our leases of county property should have a termination and then subject to renewal in them. Okay. This is basically just in perpetuity. It's a piece of property that's right in the middle of a county-owned area, and there's no sort of termination with continuance by mutual consent. And I know it's a monument, and they're proposing to spend about $25,000, but it seems to me we should have like a 15 or 20-year term, and then it can be continued by mutual consent. I'm very uncomfortable with something just going on in perpetuity. That's a small piece of property in the middle of county property, and who knows what happens in 15 or 20 years.
Well, that's correct. It does have a provision to remove the monument, but it's basically
well, on item 13, the agreement may be terminated by the district.
No, item 12 covers it as well.
But the item 12 is only if there's a breach of contract. It's not a termination of the lease. It's only by breach of contract.
That's correct.
I think on all county leases, quite frankly, there should be a term.
I made no judgment as to the term. The document says what I was told was the intent.
Okay.
If the board
I think
wants
the
to have
document meets the intent, but I think there should always be a term. Just
Fine.
as and Sarah, do you have an objection to like a 15-year term, or? Okay. Well, why don't you make it then? Well, I think can we just? I don't think this has to come back in a week. If all we're going to do is put a term and just say that this contract will be for 15 years and can be continued by mutual consent of the parties. Okay. Is that all right with the board?
If the real intent is to only change the conditions of it if the county were to encounter a need to do that, why not simply put that as a clause in and make it in perpetuity unless and until such a...
Well, I'm not a key on perpetuity, because times change, and 20, 30, 40 years from now, you have no idea what the conditions will be.
That language would allow under a narrowly defined condition for the county.
Well, I don't see the county not continuing it unless there's a compelling reason not to continue it. I mean, I think when we're dealing with county property, there should be a definitive term and then a continuation if the board in 15 or 20 years wishes to do so. And I don't think the board would unreasonably not continue it, quite frankly. That would be pretty hard to envision.
Would you like the famous polling of the board on?
Yeah, I would, Sarah doesn't seem to have a problem with that, and there needs to be, in my opinion, there always needs to be a term, and it needs to be reviewed. And so I would propose that we include a 15-year term, subject to renewal upon mutual consent of the parties.
Supervisor Callaway, are you inclined to agree with that?
That's fine.
That's fine.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Okay, then I move this item as amended. You can put item 15 as the term or something.
I could do that.
Before we do that, Supervisor Callaway has a comment.
Oh.
I'll second that, and then for discussion purposes, the the lighting from dawn to dusk. Is that okay with the neighbors? I'd hate for those lights, those 30-foot lights or whatever, to go up, and then have the neighbors complain.
My understanding, there's no issue with neighbors.
They're not going to be neon, are they, Sarah? Thank you.
Sarah, could you come to the microphone, please?
Okay.
I'm Sarah Lunsford. I'm on the board of the Ebbets Pass Veterans Memorial District Board. As far as I know, there's no contention with the lighting, and there's already parking lot lighting from dawn to dusk, because it's right next to the parking lot.
Right. Just
Okay.
want to make sure so that, I mean, I don't care, they're not calling me, but...
So who are they
It's
calling,
true.
Marita?
They're calling Tom or
I'll
me.
call
I
Sarah.
think they should call Gary.
Okay.
Or if you owe my call.
My message machine is full.
It's going to be Miller they call. I would guess.
Excuse me, on the issue of the lighting, a couple of dusk to dawn floodlights pointing up at this flag or whatever is going to be there. I mean, it could be $25 a month to pay for the kilowatts required for that. Here's our PG&E expert, but.
Well, we're on CPPA there. I think we're on CPPA. Help me, somebody. Michael, we're on CPPA there. Are we paying the electrical, the community club, or the veterans district?
The lighting, it's a fixed rate. They're usually not.
Those lights would be connected to the parking lot lighting
Okay.
and go through the CPPA rate.
Okay.
Mike Miller, admin.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item?
Supervisor Tron suggested adding a paragraph, but I propose to just change paragraph 3 so that it will read, the term of this agreement is 15 years and shall be renewed on mutual consent of the parties.
Okay, that's fine. The motion still holds as amended.
Okay, are you going to put a note on your calendar when it comes up?
Yes, I will.
All right, good.
I hope my name's not on the memorial.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of that amended agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I hear no no's, so the motion passes on a 5-0.
So,
Okay.
I'm lost.
Okay, we have item number 8, and this is a resolution authorizing the board chair to sign a one-year lease with ABBA. I thought that was a singing group or something, but for space at 90 Copper Cove Drive, Suite D, in the amount of $1,600 per month, commencing on July 1st, 2009. Excuse me, 2009. Okay, Maury Hoekstra.
Good morning, Maury Hoekstra, County Library Director. When this budget item was prepared, we were directed to make 5 and 10% cuts to the budget. And we are now at 17.5%, approximately $100,000 reduced from the library budget. The 17.5 budget reduction does include a fully operational Copperopolis library. But to achieve budget reductions, I have 3 tools at my disposal: close a library, lay off staff, or reduce staff hours. And I wanted to call your attention to the fact that the Copperopolis Library is our most expensive library to operate. In this fiscal year, the cost is approximately $42,322, which includes $24,025 in operation costs for rent, utilities, communications, and delivery. This lease is coming to us with savings of $48.96 as compared with this current fiscal year. My concern is that you could be coming back to us asking us for additional budget cuts. We've heard some departments may not make their budget targets, and that we are open to possibly further cuts. So I simply wanted to, I don't want to close a library, but I wanted to bring this to your attention now before we're directed to make cuts, because once you sign the lease, we're kind of locked in for a while. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention for discussion. If we had to close a branch library in the future, we would not be able to achieve savings of $24,000 at any other location. We would have to close 2 libraries instead of 1. So I just wanted to bring these facts to your attention for discussion.
Supervisor Walensky.
First, I wanted to welcome you back. Good to see you hale and hearty. I also wanted to give you a bit of good news along with Mike back there. The landlord at West Point has agreed to cut to equal the alternatives, so maybe we can work something out there as well for you.
Maury, I'm kind of curious about your comment that the Copperopolis Library is the most expensive one to operate by a margin of how much?
$42,000 at Copper, and the next highest branch operation is Angels Camp at $28,000.
Is that, like Angels, is that county funds you're referring to, or is that the match from the city also?
Actually, Angels would be $24,000 if you subtract the city funds.
So 24 from county?
Yeah. But it's, Copper is 42, Angels is 24, well, actually, West Point is 25. And then our low branches are, like Valley Springs, where we're paying no rent, no utilities, et cetera. And that's at $15,000. That's simply staff costs. So if we have to actually go to closing libraries, the problem becomes we can close a branch such as Arnold, but we save nothing in operational costs. There's a little snow plowing and some utilities. The cost then becomes staffing.
Well, suppose we close the main library and keep the branches. That's all right. You don't have to answer that.
Obviously, very popular.
All right, so if I understand you correctly, the $42,000 at Copper, that's what it was. It will be close to $5,000 less than that in the coming year?
It may not, because we still have delivery costs which have gone up. It will be less, but it may not be $4,800 less.
Well,
I would like to add the comment that I think it's very important, certainly for the people in each of these communities, that their libraries stay open, and that any kind of measures that we can take to assure that would be well appreciated by the supervisor, and I'm sure the rest of us as well.
We will be making those decisions at budget time, Supervisor.
Right, and will we know? We will not know until budget time if we're going to be directed to make even further cuts.
Bob, what's your recommendation, your office's recommendation on this?
I think to optimally protect the county's interest, I think I'd like to lay this over for a week because there's customarily a clause in contracts and leases where if the county or the government body does not appropriate funds, the lease is terminated. And I don't have that in this lease. So in order to preserve the county's ability to act, I'd like another week to be able to go back and see if we can insert that provision in this lease.
Is there any indication of a resistance to that by the potential landlord?
I don't think it's fair to ask more about questions.
Yeah,
This hasn't been discussed with them. So.
I see. All right.
You have a problem, Russ, with the 1 week continuance?
Under the circumstances, I don't see any choice. We have to keep all.
Then I'd move for a 1 week continuance.
Would this be something I would need to come up and discuss? I will not be here next week. Next week I have around.
Do you want 2 weeks, Bob, or can you do this in 1 week?
That becomes budget hearings.
Why don't you do
right?
2 weeks and give yourself some time?
Budget hearings on the 23rd. So.
Oh, 23rd?
Yeah. So yeah, we can go 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks. Russ, 2 weeks, all
Would
right?
be okay then?
If the decision were simply to change a clause and we went forward, that's okay. But if on the 9th we're directed that, no, we're not going to go ahead, it gives us only 9 days for the staff person to box up all the collection and be ready to get out of there.
It would certainly be administration's recommendation to proceed with a lease that included that clause.
Okay.
Let's try to do that in 1 week then.
1 week.
1 week?
Back on June 2nd with that.
Okay, but I won't be here.
Understood.
Yeah, okay.
Good luck, Marty.
Okay, just so that we have a round discussion on this, Mr. Gillhouse, there's been some verbiage in here that one of the reasons that we're moving is he hasn't been responsive. I know that there's about a $1,200 repair bill on some heating and stuff.
I think Mike Miller could address that question.
Okay, Mr. Miller, has there been any direct discussions with Mr. Gillhouse about reimbursing the county for the repairs that we did on his equipment?
Mike Miller administration. We still have $1,200. I'll work with county council on that.
All right, we have a motion for a 1 week continuance, and did I hear a second? Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There are no no's, so the motion passes on a 5-0. We had a request for about a 5-minute recess here, so we'll be starting back up at 5 minutes after 10.
Are you going to introduce Tom?
I was waiting for some color.
This is Tom. Okay.
All right. We have come to item number 9, which is public comments, and I would like to remind people that at this particular point, there are items that are not on the agenda can come forward, any and all, and however, the chair has the discretion of limiting time to 5 minutes per person, 15 minutes per topic. So speak for less than 15 minutes, Robert.
Good morning. Robert Packinger, Public Works.
Morning.
I'd like to introduce to you Tom Garcia, our new Director of Public Works.
Welcome, Tom.
Welcome
on board.
County.
Wait a minute. We have not approved item 11 yet.
Yeah, but he's here, so we're welcoming him.
Oh, all right.
It doesn't imply outcome.
Yeah, no outcome in play. Mr. Garcia, I'd like for you to look to your right and say hello to Dana Nichols. Dana is our reporter from the Stockton Record. To your immediate left is Patty Fuller with the Union Democrat. And then we have Claudette Langley with the Enterprise. Pay close attention, to these folks. So they're a wonderful asset in this community. I'm sure that you'll find them to be so.
And memorize these words, no comment.
But by all means, welcome. I'm just very pleased to see you here this morning.
Well, thank you very much. And pending the passage of one of the resolutions, I look forward to starting work here.
Welcome on board.
Glad to see you here.
All right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak this morning on items not on the agenda?
Good morning, members of the board. Tyler Somerset with Council of Governments. Hope everyone had a good extended weekend. I know at the very top of all of your calendars is the item I'm going to speak about, which is the Valley Springs Community Plan effort, which kicks off this week, a full 5 days of activity. And so I just wanted to highlight a few of those activities that we're going to be engaging in, and then also put it out there for those folks who are maybe tuning in via radio or television. We'll be having our opening community meeting on Thursday, May 28th. That meeting will start at 5:30 and hopefully will end around 8:30. All of these community events will be held at the Valley Springs Elementary School. On Saturday, May 30th, we'll have a community design workshop from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. That also will be at the Valley Springs Elementary School. And then on Tuesday, June 2nd, there'll be a presentation of planned concepts from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Also at the Valley Springs Elementary. Now, interspersed in there will be community drop-in hours. So on Friday, May 29th, from 11 a.m. to noon, and then from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the United Methodist Church there on 135 Laurel Street. Encourage folks who didn't make it to, or if they want to supplement the community meetings, to drop in. On Sunday, May 31st, drop-in hours from 1 to 3 at Valley Springs Elementary. And then on Monday, June 1st, community drop-in hours from 10 a.m. to noon at the United Methodist Church. And we're also excited to be bringing Randall Arendt. He is a national, acclaimed planner who does rural planning. He's got a book that we use regularly at the Council of Governments called Rural by Design. And his expertise is working with communities like ours, like Valley Springs, addressing land use, transportation, and other issues of community concern. And so he'll be kind of a featured person during this process. So,
how do you spell his last name?
A-R-E-N-D as in dog, T.
And Mr. Arendt hails from where?
He's actually from the East Coast. We won't hold that against him. And so he works with, so there's a lot of reference to villages in his textbook, but we'll take that to mean unincorporated communities here in our area. I also have just a quick handout, and again, this highlights each of these dates for you.
With or without electricity?
And if anyone has any questions, they can follow up with myself or Mr. McSorley at the Council of Governments.
Could you expand a little bit on these drop-in sessions? I hadn't heard anything about those.
Sure. These are just additional opportunities for folks to come and participate in the process, to share their thoughts, ideas, concerns, issues about any number of topics that are close to their heart. And so we just want to create as broad of a window to get feedback as possible. And so we did direct mailers to everyone in the Valley Springs Benefit Basin. We passed out door-to-door these flyers that are in English and in Spanish in all the homes there in Valley Springs proper. And so we're anticipating a good turnout and a full community participation.
Tyler, I also saw a reference to the ability to fill out online that same questionnaire that you mailed out. I haven't gone to that site, but have you checked on how those or that mechanism might be working?
Yes, thank you, at www.calacog.org. On the home page, there's an online survey. This is the very same survey that was mailed directly to all the Valley Springs Benefit Basin homes, and so anyone could take that survey. It's very short. It only has 5 questions, and then it also gives an update about the community meetings. At this point, we've already received over 400 of the surveys back, and I think we've got 50 or 100 responses via online, and so we're excited to continue to, each day we go to the mailbox, we've got hundreds more surveys. And again, this is just one component of the public feedback process.
Okay. Well, it's not all of that district is my district. Gary and I kind of share the constituency down there, but thank you very much for your efforts, and having gone through a long process because of economic uncertainties about how to proceed is certainly, I'm very envious that you have this large chunk of money that's making this effort possible. Just congratulations on helping expedite that.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions of Tyler?
Just one. I want to make sure that we're coordinating effectively with our planning department, and because we may have a new guy shortly, looking at the agenda, I want to make sure that he has a full orientation to this process and opportunity to participate in whatever comfort level he has with it.
Definitely. We have, as part of our stakeholder advisory and our project partners team, we have the community representatives who have been instrumental in creating everything that we've done thus far, and we appreciate that support and look forward to meeting our new captain here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Anyone else wishing to speak on public comments? Yes, good morning.
Barry Target, San Andreas. This is the 4th time I've appeared before this board on a code compliance issue. And I've been seeking your help now, and nothing's changed. This has been going on for 4 years. I started out with code compliance, and when they got rude and not returning calls, not doing their job, I came to you. And I'm still getting blown off. And not to offend you, but I went through one supervisor's 4-year term with this, and nothing happened. The last time I was here, I was told to call Mr. Jones, which I did. And he was to the point and very nice, and I appreciated that. The first question I asked him was, what can you do for me? Not much, I'm afraid. So it was kind of a blow off the last time. How do I get the issue fixed? I've been to an administrative hearing and won that. And the people built half a fence, and code compliance took 8 months. I had to come to the Board of Supervisors to get code compliance to come out and inspect this. And it's half a fence. I've had property damage, and nothing's being done. So I'm here for the last time to ask you guys, what do I have to do?
I went to Mr. Is it Tarbat?
Tarbat, T-A-R-B-A-T.
I went to Mr. Tarbat's property with code compliance, and I have a clear understanding of the issue. As far as I can tell, the code compliance matter is concluded, and I can take you out there, Supervisor Tofanelli, and show you. But the code compliance matter is concluded. If there's a continuing dispute between the neighbors, it would have to be a civil matter between them.
I got a question. They were told to build a fence by the administrative board, a retaining system, retaining wall. They did half of that. Where they quit building their wall, a 6-foot cut. And there's still a 6-foot cut on the other side. So I'd have to disagree that the code compliance issue is settled. And when the code compliance officer finally did come out and do his inspection, he stood there and scratched his head and apologized to me because he didn't know they were going to quit building there. The fence is built illegally. It's over height. Should have been engineered. There's no permits on it. So I don't think code compliance is over with it.
Jim, do you have the address?
It's just getting them to act on it.
I know where it is, yes.
I'll make a site visit out there.
Okay.
And?
I'll have to come out and view the property. I have no idea what you're speaking of. If you're speaking of Bill Claudino prior to me taking over his 4-year term, okay, this is the first I've heard of it.
I understand.
Okay, so I need to come out and see what's going on.
I understand that. I've been to the whole board.
If Mr. Jones has the address of the property, I will contact the property owner and come out and make a site visit. Mr. Jones has been out there and he gave his opinion.
As far as the gentleman needs to understand that as far as code compliance is concerned, the matter is concluded. The file is closed.
And
may I
that's
ask
based
why?
on their inspection of, I take it there was a hearing,
and
there were specific mandates resultant from that hearing, and
those have been accomplished.
Those have been accomplished.
Yes.
No, they have not.
Well, there's a remaining dispute between the neighbors, but as far as code compliance is concerned, the matter is concluded.
The dispute between myself and the code compliance.
Okay, if you guys are going to go out and do a site visit, why don't we leave it at that? We can't argue that here.
And I would like to invite Mr. White with me when I go. Okay?
And when might this happen?
I can't do it this week. The following week I will set it up.
I'll be gone in the following week.
Well, I don't think we need to involve you. That's fine.
Okay.
I think Mr. White and myself can go out.
You want 2 Mr. Whites or just one?
I think just one. Jeff White would do.
Okay, Mr. Tarbat,
Bring your tape measure, because apparently part of the issue is the height of the wall. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't care about the height of the wall. I just want it fixed. I mean, my trees have fallen out of the ground. My posts have fallen out of the ground. They're in the ground 4 foot deep.
Okay.
My property's sliding down the hill, and it's just been a circle jerk.
And you're claiming because of the wall,
Because of the county.
Because of the wall and the way that it's filled, the diversion of water is running down your property.
They have not completed the wall.
sounds like a retained dirt problem.
And when I talked to code compliance, that was their take on the matter. And now they say it's closed. But nobody calls anybody, nobody says anything.
I need to visit the site with Jeff White. Apparently it's gone through the procedures that it was supposed to, though. And if that happens, then it becomes a civil matter.
Doesn't the county enforce their laws?
Pardon me?
Does not the county enforce their own rules? If the ruling is that you build a wall to retain this bank and you cut it illegally, don't you have to do that? And doesn't the county enforce that?
Mr. Tarbat, we have a fairly lengthy
I've only had about 7 minutes up here. And I just asked one question. If you answer that,
okay. What was Jim, were you involved in this hearing, the code compliance hearing?
I was not. The neighbor was directed to make some changes as far as code compliance is concerned, and I was shown those changes were in fact made. There continues to be a dispute as to whether they were adequate. There continues to be a dispute between the neighbors, but as far as code compliance is concerned, the matter is concluded.
Okay. I will make a site visit.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Do we have any other persons wishing to speak to the board this morning on items not on the agenda? Okay. If not, I would like...
I'm going to say something.
Sure.
My name is Michael Batoni. We met. I have empathy with this individual over code compliance. They slam the door on people a lot. And the codes in this county are not followed. And code compliance says they are, and who do you go to? Obviously, sometimes going to the board doesn't work, as this individual has said. because I've taken numerous things to them, and they're either blind, ignorant, or in the bag for somebody, is my interpretation of what's going on here. You guys have a good day. Thank you. Hope I quit.
Okay, moving on to item 10. This is discussion and possible action regarding the resolution appointing George White as Director of Planning. This is brought to us by Human Resources. Good morning, Francine.
Good morning. I'm excited to bring this, actually both these items before you. Robert tried to take away my steam and energy this morning. These were two very difficult recruitments. We had great response, and the first item is actually finalizing where the board would be approving a resolution appointing George White as the planning director effective June 1st. George comes to us with over 20 years background in professional planning. He is not here today. He was here Friday, and he'll be back next Monday. So I think it's all outlined in the packet. Does anyone have any questions?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve the appointment of George White as Director of Planning. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing there are no no's, so that item is approved. Going on to item number 11. This is a resolution appointing Thomas Garcia as the Director of Public Works and Transportation.
And you've already been introduced to Tom. He is here today. The resolution approving his appointment as the Director of Public Works and Transportation is effective today. Today is his first day. Tom comes to us also with 20 years of background in city, county, and state level professional experience. We're really excited to have him on board. As the board knows, this position's been vacant. We've had several interims in place since September of 2007, and I'd like to welcome Tom on board. So.
I move the approval of the resolution of appointment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none. The motion passes on a 5-0. Welcome to Calaveras County.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 12. This is a discussion and possible action regarding the resolution amending the countywide non-disposal facility element. This is brought to us by Public Works and Robert Packinger.
Good morning. This is a public hearing, an amendment to the non-disposal facility element. This was presented to the Solid Waste Task Force, and in your packet you have a letter from the Solid Waste Task Force approving this item. Guy Davis from SEI and Evan Edgar is here. They have a PowerPoint presentation to explain to you what is the change in the operation, which culminates in a change in the non-disposal facility element.
Thank you, Robert. Board of Supervisors, good morning. My name is Evan Edgar. I'm an engineer on behalf of SEI. I've been doing solid waste management for over 25 years, and I've been a county engineer for 10 years and representing SEI and Waste Connections for the last 10 years. Next presentation. Thing about what's going on within the solid waste world is make things more efficient. And there's different new technologies emerging, the different policies at the California Integrated Waste Management Board. I've been at the California Waste Management Board for 20 years doing different types of engineering and lobbying in order to make the solid waste and recycling field more efficient. And I think the Waste Connections has embraced that. And the thing about Waste Connections, they have a very strong local presence. With me today is Guy Davis and Suzanne Kuhl, and I've been with them for the last 10 years doing all types of neat things on direct transfer facilities. I did a facility for Waste Connections in San Jose, and then 2 other direct transfer facilities in Alameda and in Santa Rosa. So this new technology is proven. What is a direct transfer facility? Well, the California Waste Board is a state agency. They have state oversight. Even though we like local control, we still got Big Brother in Sacramento to kind of keep eye on things, unfortunately. But we're able to down tier with regards to keeping small-scale operations at the county level and you have a county health department that acts as a local enforcement agency on behalf of the county, on behalf of the waste board. So we do have local control and local authority to permit this with what's called a registration permit. And what a non-disposal facility element is an NDFE, and as part of the county solid waste management plan from the 1980s, in order to have a permit, you have to be part of the solid waste management plan. What is a direct transfer facility? Well, right now those garbage trucks go direct haul from the Arnold area in Ebbets Pass. They go all the way down to Rock Creek, and that's a lot of truck traffic. So instead of doing all that truck traffic in the Arnold facility, we're going to have a transfer facility that goes from truck to truck. Nothing touches the floor. So what you see there is a garbage truck backing up to a transfer trailer. And then you see the middle ramp there. We put on middle ramp, backs up, and it starts tipping. And the transfer trailer has these hydraulic arms that goes up. It kind of keeps things containerized for litter control and different odor control. So it kind of goes from truck to truck. There's dumping, and it has a complete dump there with regards to like a transfer station on wheels. This facility is in San Jose. It's a waste connections facility. It's been operational for the last 5 years. We just re-permitted it every 5 years. So it's been a proven facility. And there you see another dumping of the garbage in the back of a transfer trailer. And then this is looking at it from the end dump. What goes on in San Jose is a split container, so you have half the load and half is recycling. But what you have up in this facility would be all the commercial, residential, and some select debris boxes would dump inside of there, and then a little front-end loader would push it in to get compaction, get 22 tons a load, as opposed to taking 4 trucks that weigh about 5 to 6 tons all the way to Rock Creek and back. You do up here, you get 4 or 5 loads per one transfer trailer. So it's about 50 miles one way to Rock Creek. We want to save fuel, emissions, and time. We can consolidate the loads down for residential, commercial, select debris boxes. No self-haul. We're not going to take any mom or pop or transfer trailers up or pickup trucks for traffic purposes, and it just doesn't work up there. It'll be open from 8 to 4, and will service Ebbets Pass corridor all the way down to City Angels and to Bear Valley. There's a map of the Arnold area. And then you see up in the upper, we call it Area 3, up in the upper right-hand corner is a little upper pad area. Back there we did a site visit with the county health department, Robert from Public Works. We walked the facility about 2 months ago, and we all agreed that's an ideal location. We put up a couple litter fences. We have some traffic controls. You put that metal ramp up, and there's enough turning radius and safety in order to meet all the state minimum standards. The California Integrated Waste Management Board have a whole series of minimum standards we have to meet, and once a month the county health department comes out to inspect the facility, so we're able to operate up there in an efficient manner, meets all state and county standards. So garbage will never touch the ground, so it'll be vehicle to vehicle, which is very important. We'll have a registration permit that every 5 years you have to update it. We have very limited traffic, so the area won't be impacted with traffic, only limited to SCI garbage trucks. We'll operate in accordance with the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. It'll be on a paved surface. Prompt litter cleanup is container to container with those panels that keep the litter in, and there'll be no processing, scavenging, or salvaging. Nobody will be picking through it, so it's very one-shot efficient transfer. On a permitting path, we met with county planning, and within your M1 zone, this type of facility is allowed as being part of the county plan. So we're here today to be part of the county plan, which is a non-disposal facility element amendment. We have an attachment that describes the Arnold facility, direct transfer facility, in one-page format. It went in front of the local task force, which is we met with Supervisor Callaway about a month and a half ago. We had unanimous support. So where it goes from here, it goes towards the California Waste Board in about 6 to 8 weeks, and they have to concur with it. They have to bless it. So that's their role. But the fact that it's under 100 tons a day, we're only going to average 40, 50 tons a day. But we're able to do it with a registration permit issued by the county health department. And as part of the application package, we have to do a report, but we have to have an NDFE in place in order to apply for the permit. Plus, it complies with your local zoning. And it's permitted every 5 years we update it. So in conclusion, the Arnold Direct Transfer Facility is a lot more efficient. It'll save a lot of gas, time, and effort to go down Rock Creek. And we have to work with Rock Creek on some operational issues down there. We talked to County Public Works on how to get our transfer trailers in and out of there at the right time of day. So there's some logistic things we're working on, which Public Works can work out. Waste Connections proven operator on doing this. Task Force has unanimous support. We're here today to approve the NDFE. It goes to the Waste Board, and then we can permit this package, hopefully be operational by midsummer. Thank you. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions from the board? It's a public hearing. Any questions from the audience?
I did actually have
a question.
Oh, did you
have one?
As you know, counties are under some degree of pressure to come into compliance with AB 32, which takes a look at anticipating climate change and responding to it. This looks like it might be such a measure. Is anybody in Public Works making sure that we're cataloging what improvements we do make so that we can begin to collect all of the measures that are underway in this county?
On behalf of Waste Connections are part of the Climate Action Registry. As part of that being, they voluntarily report all their emissions to a nonprofit state agency that the California Air Board looks at. So I can do the calculations. I do those all the time for many companies. So I can do the AB 32 transportation reductions on greenhouse gases just by doing the math. We know the mileage, the efficiencies, and they'll be part of the ledger that they will post on the California Climate Action Registry homepage.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, but I think this does the kinds of things that we're trying to move towards, and that was a good question, Steve.
All right. If there are no other questions, the chair entertains a motion on this item.
I move this item, please.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There are none. The motion passes on a 5-0.
And when it's in operation, I invite all of you up to Arnold to see it.
Can we bring our junk?
Yeah.
Can we bring our junk? No, we don't take mom and pop.
Serve us lunch from out of one of the containers?
Okay, moving on to
recycling effort.
We have an additional item here, item 13. This is a discussion and possible action authorizing the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, acting as the public authority governing board, to approve a resolution authorizing a wage reduction for providers of in-home supportive services effective July 1, 2009. This is brought to us by CalWorks, and I think that it's appropriate to constitute ourselves at this point as the public authority governing board. Everybody have that hat on right now? So, okay. We are constituted. Welcome.
Good morning. Colleen Reeves from the Public Authority. Excuse me. The federal stimulus issue with regard to IHSS wages has been resolved. And so I'm here this morning to ask that you pass a resolution that allows us to reduce wages to the IHSS providers effective July 1st to $9.50 per hour. The board should also know that the May revise also includes a discussion about further reducing wages to $8 an hour effective October 1st.
Jeez.
Is that part of what is being proposed here, the 8?
No, today is just the July 1st reduction to $9.50 per hour.
And then there's the benefits on top of that.
The benefits remain the same.
Well, I'm sure we're all waiting for a board member to make the motion. It's not, I mean, this is just a sight of what's happening. I mean, if you all remember earlier in the meeting today, we just dropped a half-time wildlife specialist. And now we have this. And we never thought it would come to that.
Do you have anything else?
No, it's very painful. This is a very painful
Yes, it
process.
is.
Supervisor Walensky.
I want to try to understand this a little better than I do at the moment. It appears there's a federal, state, and county portion to these salaries.
Correct.
And there's now been a cap that's been created at $9.50. Is that correct?
The cap is really $10.10, $9.50 in wages.
$9.50 for wage and
60 cents per hour for benefits.
So actually, the county's savings, should we reduce people's income from $9.75 to $9.50, is a total, as it says here, of $15,645.67 for the entire year. And that is the amount that covers the 200 and some folks who are under this program. Is that
correct?
Okay, so I do understand it then, unfortunately, and I want to express my thoughts on it. This is the lowest paid workforce. They make less than a zookeeper for taking care of our grandparents and people with disabilities in the measure of services that keeps them out of institutions, which cost a lot more than being able to live in some dignity in your own home. These are the people who are at the bottom end of our salary structure and certainly way beneath our county benefits program, and that's been based on the level of support from state and federal sources and consistent with our very low financing capabilities here in Calaveras County. And yet for $15,000, the idea of taking 200 and some people in this county and reducing them by 25 cents an hour from an already pittance that we pay for this critical service is more than I can personally bear. I certainly, when people say, well, so what would you do? I would be willing, from my position, to put my supervisor's discretionary fund on the line to keep this worthy workforce in its current state. I don't think we can do the pay increase that was scheduled for this year, and probably not for the next one either. But to actually go in reverse gear, just as we were finally getting into, this isn't a living wage, but it's at least getting to the point of survival for these people, many of which I have met, and just cannot imagine not being able to find $15,000 to keep them, as costs go up, at least at the level that they're at. We're not asking any other part of our workforce to take a pay cut at this point. There are many sacrifices that are going to be asked of all of us, but if we're not going to cut anybody else's pay scale, and even if we were, this would be the last group that I would go to for cutting $15,000 out of their yearly accumulation of cost.
I have to address that. First of all, the supervisor's special project money is not general fund money, it's vehicle license fee money. So if we give it up, which I have asked this board to do, it goes back to VLF, which goes back to the roads. So that's
that
not
can't be
general
done.
fund.
Right.
Two, I mean, I understand what Steve's saying, but this is just the start of what we are going to be addressing at budget time. My thought is that if that's where the board wants to go, then when we're at budget time and the board wants to give $15,000 of general fund money to IHSS, and we're now starting to furlough people or lay off people or whatever it is, we're going down a path we've never been down before. And so it's not that we're not empathetic or that our heart's not there, that we're going to be faced with this like we were on consent with the wildlife specialist many times over. And that if that can be, I mean, Mr. Lawton can put that on things that he would like, that the board might like to consider at budget time, then that's when we should do it. I mean, we have to take action, and then if we want to, at budget time, make up that 15,000, then we can do it at that time. I don't want to start going into, and it's been my mantra, is piecemealing budget items until we look at it, especially now on the total package. I'm not adverse to the board doing what Steve is requesting, but we need to look at that in total. Well, we might not cut salaries, but we could do layoffs. We might not cut salaries, but we could be doing furloughs. I mean, this is nothing that any of us have experienced before. So, I mean, I would support Steve maybe putting it on the let's consider list, but I'm not willing to make that decision today.
Are you suggesting a postponement of this
No,
decision?
I am not. I am saying that we make the decision because we
pass the
really have
resolution
to.
today, and then if we wish to
And then
put
if
the
we
money back
wish
in
to
at budget.
put it back in, then we
Yeah,
put it
I
back
agree
in
with
at
that.
budget.
I guess my sentiments are the same as Marita's. I think we should, assuming this is where Marita's, pass this today, and then if at budget time the board wants to put 15,000 back in when we have a total picture of, if we do this, then we don't do that with 15,000, then the board would have the discretion of doing so. I mean, my own personal sentiments are much like Steve. I mean, it's to me, it's just a reflection of the total mismanagement of the state that we're sitting here talking about reducing the compensation of somebody that makes $10 an hour. And it's pretty clear, in my mind anyway, how we sort of managed to get here. And one of it is the same reasons that the car companies are bankrupt, and that's unions and pensions. And
I didn't hear Steve say all that. But
I'm saying, I just said I agreed with the first part, that it's a shame that we're here dealing with $10 an hour people when that's not what put us here. And it's just a reflection of the gross mismanagement and of the state. And quite frankly, until the state is really willing to sort of address their mismanagement and not address it in the form of extending temporary taxes or new borrowings without ever addressing the underlying fundamental principles of why we have a dysfunctional budgetary process and in many ways a dysfunctional government, that we're down to $10 an hour people taking pay cuts is pretty appalling. But I am in favor of going forward today. We did structure all this on the basis that if the matching funds went away, there would be a reduction. And we did increase them substantially from, I don't know, I want $6 or $8 an hour to the $10.
We're not at 10 yet. We're at 9.75, but still.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll move the resolution, and I would support instructing the administrative office when we do preliminary budgets to put that on a short list for review by the board prior to the completion of the budgetary process. And I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a second to the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a...
I have a question.
Okay.
The $15,645.67 county saving that's been talked about here, will that in fact, if that, when it gets down to the budget hearings and say we approve that 15,000 plus, would that make up the 25 cents?
Yes.
That amount itself would make up the 25 cents?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure that
You have to remember, though, when you think about the new budget for 09-10, that there's an increase in hours expected, about 7.9%. So if you decide to do this in the new budget year, there will be an additional, I think, maybe it's 25,000 to 28,000 hours that are going to be increased in 0910.
So what you might do is give Mr. Lawton what you anticipate, because in October, there's supposed to be another cut. So I think for budget purposes, Mr. Lawton needs to come to the board, and it might not be just the 15,000, it could be 23, 25,000. So the board has an understanding of what it is that we would need to make up.
Okay, I think that Mr. Lawton has received that. The budget was submitted via bill on Sunday, so you've got the expected hours.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we've had a little bit of discussion. I would just like to point out to the board that, as Supervisor Callaway has mentioned, we have this is just sort of the beginning of the tough decisions that we're going to be making. At this 25-cent reduction, I want to point out that it leaves these providers with 97.5% of the wage that they're currently getting. It's a 2.5% reduction in that wage. I want to keep things in perspective. I'm not wanting to be perceived as being insensitive to the wage, the predicament of the people that are providing this low-tier work. However, the theme that I have repeated to me around the countryside when people are talking about the difficult choices that they know that we have to make is that they would prefer to have a job at a reduced rate than no job. So I'm not necessarily in favor of this reduction, but a 2.5% reduction in view of what we have looming in front of us, I think is about the best that we can do for this segment right now, and I'll be supporting the motion. So anyway, unless there are any other comments, I'll be calling for the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion passes on a 4-1. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have the last item on the agenda today is a review of correspondence, and Tom, for your just to explain what goes on here, the board has board responsibilities that we report out on for this following week, or for the remainder of this week, and
Robert,
just bring things.
do not leave, please.
Don't leave, Robert. And Supervisor Callaway has requested the opportunity to go first. Now I'm going to poll the board on that.
Oh, no, okay, Tuffanelli wants to go first.
I didn't say I want to go first. I'm just polling the board.
Go ahead, Supervisor Callaway.
Okay. The reason that I did not want you to go first is what I would like on county roads is share the road signs. And I'd like to find a way to make it happen. We have one in Arnold, and I'd like to find it. We have more and more and more people biking in the county, and I know we find reasons not to do it. I'd like to find reasons to do it, and if it is the cost, then maybe we could get an adopt the sign, and we can do some raising funds. So if we want one on controversial Murphy's Grave, Blagan, I mean, each of the supervisors have their own roads. I would like some of these. This comes to us care of Mr. Bruce Castle, the King of Roads of Calaveras County. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Falconer, you can leave.
Thank you.
I mean, if you so choose, unless another supervisor.
I have a question for him. On this pictorial that we've gotten, there is a sticker at the bottom of it saying "Stop Core."
Oh, yeah, that's.
Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, that's a controversial issue in Ebbets Pass. It had to do with the interface area.
Oh, yes, okay.
And so forth.
see
So
there's a
somebody
bullet
put
hole
that on. Well, that could be a bullet hole there too. But yeah, we don't
Does
need the
that come with
core.
the sign, or
We
is
don't
it?
need
No.
the core? I thought it was Stop Corps of Engineers.
No, okay. Thank you, Ms. Beck.
That would be my district.
But if
I
you
would
could help.
support it if you take the core sign off and put support the NRA down there at the bottom.
Outside of what Mr. Tryon said, if you
Support,
could.
how about support the board?
Find a way to make that happen. Okay.
This meeting is deteriorating.
All right. Thank you.
That's it? You have nothing to
No,
report?
wait a minute.
We had your 5 minutes.
Okay. With, I guess, a couple of my other colleagues, I will be in Sacramento this week, and Steve is doing me a big favor. He's going to go to Fish and Game for me because Tom's got to run cattle or some excuse, and he's going to go to Juvenile Justice Commission for me. So, Steve, I thank you for doing that. Also, I would like Steve to give us a 2-minute dissertation on his trip to Washington, D.C., where he made Calaveras look good.
He has a collection of cards here that's quite impressive. If he went anywhere in Washington to do anything, he got cards.
So, thank you.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Supervisor Toffenelli, you want to chime in?
Well, I don't know if I can top that. I have no pictures, so. On the 27th, I will be in Sacramento at the Corps of Engineers building for a Coscove Creek meeting. On the 28th through June 2nd, I will be at as many of those Valley Springs community meetings that I can get to. I plan on being on the one on Thursday, the 28th, the one on Saturday, May 30th, and June 2nd. The drop-in meetings I will try to attend as much as I can if my schedule allows me. I have a tour of Calaveras High at 7:30 a.m. on the 28th with Mr. Frost and Mr. Campbell and the rest of Rotarians. I think, Russ, you're involved in that too. You'll be there?
I'm sorry, that was for
the tour of Calaveras High?
Oh, yes.
On the 28th.
Yeah, that's Thursday morning.
And that's all I have to report.
Supervisor Toffenelli, that there was something on my calendar that talked about visiting with Senator Cox on Wednesday.
There was a meeting set up to visit with Senator Cox regarding the AOC, but it's been canceled in light of the agreement that we came to last week.
That's true. What am I going to do Wednesday?
It's been made moot, as the lawyers would say.
I was counting on that.
Well, you can definitely go.
All right.
Won't stop you.
Okay, does that conclude your comments? Yes. Okay, Supervisor Walensky, we're waiting for your report. What did you find out?
Well, I'll start with my commitments for the week.
Further suspense.
Tomorrow we have a meeting of the Calaveras Consensus Group, which was sort of the initiator of to some extent, of the trip to Washington, or at least the beneficiary of it. We also have, I'm going to the Fish and Game Commission meeting for Merida on Wednesday, and Thursday the Juvenile Justice Commission meeting at 5 at the Probation Department. I am going to be at the Behavioral Health recovery celebration from 12 to 1 on Friday. And that concludes the schedule for the week. I did get to Washington at 6:30 in the morning after the red eye, which I used to be able to take with a little bit more ease when I was 20-something, but deposited in D.C. at 6:30. Meetings began at 8 that morning and went to 12 midnight, and the next morning early as well. Went and did offer testimony to the House Natural Resources Subcommittee, and spent time in the following offices. I went to the National Forest folks, visiting the Deputy Chief of the National Forest System, Gina Owens, the Legislative Specialist at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Edward Bowling and Michael Boots. Bowling is the General Counsel on Environmental Quality for President Obama, and Boots is the Associate Director for Land and Water Ecosystems Council on Environmental Quality. Those are both essentially attorneys for the White House. Went to the also talked to people in Congressman Miller's office, the legislative director there, Jen Silva, the senior legislative assistant for Congresswoman Napolitano, and visited at length with several staff members in Barbara Boxer's office, as well as lengthy meetings with Dianne Feinstein's people working on these subjects. We also met with Mr. Jensen, who is a top-ranking person at the new appointee Department of Ag, who works with distressed communities and forest communities that have been damaged from economic displacement. The meetings were really quite productive, and we advanced a number of projects. Senator Feinstein posted on her website a appropriations proposal to support the CHIPS project to the tune of $500,000, and we are in competitive process on forest restoration and watershed management and restoration funds and fire safe funds from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Forests, and BLM. I also met with representatives of those. So it was a very busy and exhausting time. I felt like I was in some kind of sleep deprivation experiment gone haywire. But managed to get time at the tail end of it when Congress actually broke session late Thursday night. You could hear the whoosh out of Washington, and so my Friday meetings dematerialized, or at least some of them did, and I was able to spend some time at some things that had really profound effect on me. I went to the World War II Museum, went to a midnight visit to the Lincoln Memorial, went to the Holocaust Museum and the Native American Museum, all of which gave me a deeper sense of country, the magnificence of our history, and the belief that even when we have tough times as we do at the moment, that we've been through much tougher in our national history, and that we have somehow managed to find the leadership and the conviction and the belief in our best traditions to get through them. So I come back, and actually having flown across the entire country and sort of on a window seat looking down, it was really great getting back to what I think is the best place on the continent to live. So it was both inspiring, humbling, productive, and a relief to be done.
That is the new World War II memorial in front of the reflecting pond. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Very nice. Didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's really quite something.
Well, congratulations on your trip, Steve. One of your objectives was to push for the replication of your CHIPS model in other areas. Did you get any traction for that idea?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have kind of a sister organization up in Hayfork, and it appears that the U.S. Forest Service and to some extent the folks at the Ag Department are thinking that for the priority projects in the state of California, that those two would be invited to bring forward, not necessarily a joint proposal, but that we would be considered concurrently. So even in a even in a highly competitive situation, we have worked toward resolving potential inter-regional disputes. They're doing just about the same stuff we're doing here, and it made no sense to try to make gains here at the expense of Hayfork. So we've managed to pull that together. And there were discussions as well on the mills and the infrastructure for creating value-added forest products and diversifying the forest economy that were very productive as well, and an attempt to get funding for those in places where the infrastructure had been liquidated. I should also mention that we met with people who have just purchased the cogeneration facility in near Ione at Buena Vista. They anticipate putting that online sometime in the year 2010 with a target date of July. If that takes place, they'll convert it from a lignite plant, which is about as foul an air polluter as I think if you asked Lochner, he would probably throw himself across the gears of that to keep it from being a lignite plant. But in this case, they're moving to woody biomass. They're moving away from other dirty burn technologies and have reapplied, even though they had the permits to do all the other stuff. They're reapplying specifically for woody biomass and looking at Calaveras and Amador counties, BLM, and U.S. Forest Service lands and restoration efforts to be able to provide 1/3 of that with green waste from our transfer stations and our solid waste as 1/3 of it. And finally, orchards being removed from the Central Valley or replaced in the Central Valley, using that as the other third. So we're on the way to having the infrastructure piece of this in place. The monies that we were seeking, at least some of the monies we were seeking in Washington, included producing a plant or building a plant to do pellets for pellet stoves in this county, which is another value-added product of what's currently being burned. This could actually improve air pollution control and also taking wood waste and using it productively. We currently buy most of our pellets in this county from British Columbia, so half the cost is in the transportation of it. So we're thinking that maybe this is an opportunity for our new Director of Public Works to contribute to removal of some of our waste from the stream in a way that actually creates some profit on this end. Or I should say some non-profit, but at least covers our costs, as opposed to a rather poor transaction down to all of the county. So anyway, that's just a quick synopsis, but I could talk forever on this one. My testimony was cut from 15 minutes to 10 minutes to 5 minutes, and then just as I came, I had to edit it down to 4.5 because a vote was about to take place. And you can imagine what sublime torture that was for me. Yeah. Anyway, that's the report.
Okay. Supervisor Tryon.
I do not have anything to bring before the board today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
What?
Supervisor
I don't have
Callaway.
anything to bring before you today.
I thought you were going
I
to
did
tell
it
us
on the consent
about
agenda.
this cattle drive that you had.
Supervisor Callaway.
I have one item. Steve mentioned it about giving up his board project money for IHSS, and of course that's VLF money, that vehicle license fee money, that is not general fund dollars. I have mentioned it before that I do not think we should be spending board project money considering where we're going to. Now, I know board members have items that they might have committed to between now and the end of the budget year, but I think we should at least give some direction to our CAO that we keep it as a line item, but we budget 0 in that category for the coming budget year. I've wanted that for years, finally got it, and I just do not think in good conscience we can be doing it. So if the board has not a problem, I think we should at least put that out on the table as part of the board's contribution to helping to reduce the budget.
Anybody want to respond to that?
Well, I have some questions about it. It seems to me zeroing out an amount to be added to our accounts this year makes eminent sense to me. But there are also balances in these accounts. Some of us, well, each of us has handled this fund differently. I'm the kind of person who at a crab feed will actually get all the crab out of the shells and pile it up and then eat it. I save for a rainy day, I guess, as a general matter of course. And that's what I've done with my fund. Others have spent all of it. So the question is what we would do with our current balances and how much of it we would be giving back, all, some, or none. And what I'd like to do is see whether we could consider this in a formal context with accounting so that we know exactly what's in these funds and can discuss it at that point.
That's fine, but I agree that there should not be any new allocation in the current year. As far as past allocations, let's look at the numbers, and I agree. I mean, if somebody spent them all, it's hardly fair to the next guy to say that you're just going to lose yours. I agree.
Well,
but let's see what the
or
numbers
some of
are.
it, maybe we can all do something that's equitable across the board.
Yeah, I mean, if we all have $3,000 or more left, then we can maybe wipe out 3, and the more can get out.
I'm in agreement with
I
that.
like that idea. I think that's
See where we are. I have no idea what the numbers say.
Can I just seek some clarification, if I may seek some clarification here? I believe what I'm hearing is that there's a consensus, and I don't mean to get out in front of it, but a consensus not to appropriate further funds for this purpose in future years. The VLF monies will be retained fully for the roads, but that with respect to funds which are currently held, you'd like an accounting before deciding whether or not to
put them in cash carry.
Well, there wouldn't be, whatever cash carry there is, yeah.
There is about $50,000 sitting in that account. It is one of the few, if not only, accounts that we roll over.
Right.
This board has continually said we do not roll over, that the monies go back that's how we've gotten cash carry.
We'll see the numbers.
Let's take a look at what the numbers are.
One guy that just sort of.
All right, we'll return to the board of that report, but we will also
I mean, it could be at budget time, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
I mean, not to make more work, we can do
Okay.
it at budget, but I think not to encumber funds for the coming
Right.
year is appropriate, if the board agrees to that.
I think we got you. That direction is most helpful. Thank you, Supervisor.
All right. I'm the last person here. I'd like
I'm
to.
sorry, Russ. Good for you.
That's okay. I'm used to it. I have, like Supervisor Toffenelli, I'll be deeply involved in this community workshops in Valley Springs on Thursday, Saturday, and then the following Tuesday. Let's see, I won't be going to see Senator Cox. So.
Well, that same day, we have Cosgrove Creek in Sacramento, if you want to go to that meeting.
Okay.
It's at 1 o'clock.
I'll take you up on that. And specifically on the issue of these disbursements from the discretionary funds, just to forewarn you that I do have several things on next week's agenda, hoping to get on the meeting of the second. What is it?
The second.
Okay, and I think maybe Supervisor Toffenelli has some, and Supervisor Callaway correctly said that there may be some things that we have committed to that are going to be coming forward, and this is certainly falls into that category. I mean, I like Steve, haven't dispersed very much out of there, but there have been some organizations that have been looking forward to some contribution, and I feel compelled to make good on my commitment. So, if there are no other board comments, Mr. Lawton, do you have anything on this item?
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Jones?
As I mentioned, I'll be gone next week, and David Sirius will join you.
Where are you going, Jim?
It's not rehab.
Although we've been trying.
Did you say rehab?
That's good.
Or rehab?
It's not rehab. You're
rehab, yeah.
You're relative.
Does it involve an airplane and a ceremony?
It does involve an airplane, yes.
Madeline, do you have anything to share? All right. Well, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank everyone for coming this morning, and special welcome again, Tom.
Are you contagious still, or is...